There's salt in the background there. Oh, of course, every time it's always I get this notification that says my connection is unstable. Well, you know what? I live in the holler and internet sucks here. So that maybe they just don't like me because I talk about things that the YouTube doesn't really like. People say, "Country, do you drink coffee all day?" Yes. So we got some coffee out of my one of my Navy cups. And I'll tell you what, I got this coffee cup for free. I just had to sign away 4 years of my life. I don't know. I thought I was going to go buy a truck. So, next thing I know, they're shaving my hair and some guy screaming at me. uh, how's everybody doing? I see two people watching and getting the deal. If you want to get onto the chat, but anyway, I hope everyone's doing good. I'm just chilling out here, and well, I was sharpening knives. And this is, I don't really remember the name of it. Says Camillus Titanium. That was the brand, and it's just a cheap belt knife. It came with, it was like a 2-pack at Tractor Supply, and they had this one, and then one that's like this, but less pointed and with a gut hook. And this, I have used this knife specifically for quartering deer this year. I've used this knife because it's got a little bit of heft, and so I can get around the bones and the joints and things like that. So that's good knife. And then I've been using this, which says Mustad or Mustad, however you pronounce it. It's just a little cheap, like, I don't know. I did a video on these, and I bought several of these knives to put in kits because I do for my part of my preps. I have, let's call them goodie bags for people who are not prepared. Like anytime I go on a trip, like with my in-laws, specifically, specifically my in-laws, because they are not prepared, or a good number of them are not prepared. I have these goodie bags, and it's got some calories, some cordage, water, water in a container. Usually I throw 1 or 2 bottles of like the Nestle or just the bottled water, and maybe a couple of granola bars in there, cordage, cutting tool, some shelter, space blanket, and like the cheap 98-cent ponchos. Just the very, very bare minimum. And I put them in like a cheap drawstring bag. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just my generation, but that was like all the punk cool kids and the jocks always carried those little drawstring bags that just slung over their back. And like, so that style. And that's what I do. And I'm not saying that that's something that someone else has to do, but anyway, these knives I bought for that purpose, and I've hence stashed them. I've stashed a bunch of these around, just different locations. So I've always got a knife within reach. And then I have put this one through the works so far by using it when we butchered chickens this past summer. And then I've used it quartering all of my deer and all of my brother's deer this year, which my brother so far has killed 2. And I killed 3 this year. And then I want to get 1 more, but season is not in at this moment. It will be in. There's like a little short season in West Virginia this weekend, and then the last couple of days of 2020, there's a doe only rifle season. I think it might be muzzleloader season right now, but anyway. But so this, I bought this at Walmart. They had them in a little plastic bucket on the sporting goods counter, and so that's where I bought these little cheap knives. Like a $4 knife. Honestly, it was like a $4 knife. And this is so light, I wouldn't recommend trying to do any real heavy like batoning. I mean, like, you're not going to be batoning with this, but this was, I mean, it's got some flex to it, which is really good for what I use it for. And it's in a hard plastic sheath, which I tried carrying these, and I kept breaking this little plastic clip every time I tried carrying them some, and it did not work. But got some fruit too. Oh, strawberry. But anyway, so those are just a couple of the knives. And they're both cheap knives. I'm a knife fanatic. I love knives. I have way too many knives, if there is such a thing. But it's like I've always got a knife nearby, close to me, like right there. Like, I wasn't planning this. This is just a knife I've got here. And I bought this knife in Thailand off of some street vendor. And nice little knife. It's cheap. It wouldn't hold up to a lot of abuse, but for what I use it for around the house, let me see. Got another knife right here. This is a UST knife, and it came with a set. Had this knife, which originally had a blaze orange chintzy paracord, and so I actually rewrapped it with this gray actual 550 paracord, and it somewhere around here I've got the sheath for it. I just don't know where, but I've got this one, and it came with this, a machete that was wrapped in the same chintzy orange paracord, and a small hatchet, which was also wrapped in the same chintzy paracord. And I took both of them out. I've got a wood handle on the machete. I went and put a wood handle into the machete, and then the hatchet did have a paracord wrap until I removed it this year. I used that hatchet to bust the pelvis on a couple of does. Well, because it's a lot harder now for those of y'all who don't work up and process animals. In my experience, it is more well when you're field dressing an animal, you have to get all the entrails out, right? That would include the intestines up into the anus. Okay. So hey, if you're squeamish about talk, or something like that, then fair warning. What's coming up ahead is not for the ultra squeamish. So there, you have been warned. That's your one warning. Yeah, you come to a live stream or you watch an old live stream of a guy with the name Big Country, and you see this big guy with a big red beard, and you wonder, is this going to be friendly for my weak constitution? Okay, so now you have no excuse, right? So part of field dressing the animal, and it makes it a lot easier to get all the entrails out of the chest cavity, is you cut, and I always go from the sternum, just right at the bottom of the rib cage, and I go all the way down. Uh, and if it's a female, you just go ahead and cut the udder out, or a male, just go ahead and remove the testicles. Just cut around that, and then you've got a big opening, right? You cut down the in between the hams, the back legs, and you cut the meat down, and then you'll eventually find the pelvis. Now, of course, for those of y'all who maybe took an anatomy class, you'll know that the pelvis on a man or a male and the pelvis on a female are different, because the female's pelvis is designed for birthing babies and the male's is not. There's a big old hole in the female's pelvis. It's designed for birthing babies. So contrary to what your gender studies professor might have told you, there is a difference. But anyway, so for the male on the deer, there's a nice little, like a seam in there, just a little groove right in the dead center of the pelvis, and you can usually take your knife. I always take the knife, and you just kind of get it in there, push it in, and you can crack that open. Then you're able to actually get out the remainder of the small intestine. Go ahead and cut out that, the anus and all that stuff, right? On a female, it's not got that real nice defined groove that you can get in, and it's in multiple places. So for that, I always like to carry a chopper. So I use that little UST hatchet of mine as a chopper. This year, I have in the past carried this big hulking knife with me for a chopper. This is a Boker or Borker. I don't know how to pronounce it. B-O with an umlaut, K-E-R. I think it's an umlaut. Anyway, Boker Plus. It's actually made to MOLLE for the MOLLE system, so I have carried it in with that system in the past, but last year it was just stuffed into my Blaze Orange hunting bag, because I always take a hunting pack. I always take a pack out whenever I go into the woods hunting, and it's Blaze Orange. So definitely not tactical. Um, but I carry that, and among what I carry is you got to have a pen and paper for making a field tag. That's an important thing for legality, at least here in West Virginia. Um, but I always carry that. I usually carry some calories with me. A bag of cashews or peanuts or something like that. One of the little single serving bags, just for you know, get hungry sitting out there in the stand. Usually carry water with me. Um, and the big things here for after the kill is a little hatchet or a chopping device of some sort, either big hulking knife or a small lightweight hatchet. So I either carry that, and then I also carry some like 350-pound test polypropylene rope, uh, which you can buy a big old roll of it at Harbor Freight for pretty cheap. And so I always carry that because it's a lot easier dragging out a deer, especially by hand, which I do. I don't have a four-wheeler to drag it out with, and where I hunt, there's no way you're going to get a truck back there or a tractor. At least not any tractor that I own, or truck that I own. Now most of the trails are designed for and built for either foot traffic or a four wheeler or a UTV, and I don't have a four wheeler or a UTV. Um, Father-in-law does, so he uses them, but I don't have that luxury. But anyway, it's a lot easier when you got a rope, rather than trying to grab the legs and drag them out by the legs, or because when you're dragging them out, you can drag them out by the neck with a rope rather than trying to grab them by the front legs, and then the head just keeps getting caught on everything. For those of y'all who deer hunt, you're probably going, if you're watching this, you're probably going, well, duh. I mean, this all seems like common sense to me, and probably to any of y'all who've experienced this before. Um, but I've been told that hey, this kind of stuff that seems mundane might be interesting to people that don't get to experience this. I mean, this is the life that I live, and these are the real. This is the real talk of the real life that I live. Um, so so that's something fun. You're dragging out a deer, all that good, happy stuff. Wow. But anyhow, see, I'm just looking to see if I have another knife that's within easy grabbing distance. Oh, here's something talking about hunting pack. Um, I always carry a headlamp, and the good thing about these headlamps that I carry is I have a red light function. Now the good thing about the red, and this is what I do, because I walk into the woods when it's still dark. Is my dog barking? Okay, y'all, I will be right back. I'm going to. All right, I'm going to be right back and see what my dog is barking at. Something, Dad? Here you go. Hey. Okay. Now, folks. Hey, I see I got a like while I was gone. Sorry for abandoning posts here. But I had to check on the dog. I ended up bringing her in. Best I can tell is it was coyotes. She's going crazy over the coyotes. That's pretty common. Yeah, that's pretty common around here, unfortunately. DNR, thank you, in all her wisdom, turns coyotes loose. Because, why not? And the tree huggers will say, well, the coyotes used to be here. They used to live here. We drove them out. We killed them all. and destroyed their habitat. Yeah. You know why? Because that's the first thing you do when you settle an area is you get rid of the predators. I mean, but and you know what wasn't here when we had coyotes before? Farms, people's livestock, people's livelihoods. Um, that's what wasn't here. Towns. It's what wasn't here before. And you know what? We kicked them all out. We killed them all and drove them all away. And now the DNR sets them loose to bring the deer population down. Oh, let's not have a longer deer season. Oh, no. No, let's put down a predator that's going to kill somebody's sheep or goats or cattle, or potentially, kill their dog with their, cat and their other pets, or harm their child or kill their child. That's a thing you got to worry about. DNR. But anyway, old spotlight and the 12 gauge to make sure. But if it's deer, I don't care. The dog's gonna bark at deer. Dogs are gonna bark at deer. But and you need to make sure that it's not a predator like a coyote or possum, raccoon, any of that. That's a concern, especially for me. Because I've got chickens and possum, raccoon will kill your chickens. So I don't like them. But so that's a thing. Goodness. I drank all my coffee. I think I did. Oh. I did. I need to brew another pot potentially tonight. I don't know if I will tonight or not. Oh, goodness gracious. So yeah, that's the thing. And hello, dog. She was ready to come inside too. She does not like the coyotes, and when you've got multiples out there, it is kind of eerie. And what, girl? Huh? What? There we go. Let's see. You can. Okay. Yeah. Just push the computer out of the way. Right. I'm only doing a live stream. She doesn't know what that is. See? Hi. Well, say hi. Say hi. Huh? No, you don't need to be. No, don't need to be licking my face. Okay. Okay, but now back now I was talking about. I've got the what I was talking about figured out. Okay, so the red. When I go into the woods of a morning, I go in at dark, and usually you need a light to see get in there. Now, why do I don't use the white light on the way in? I use the red light. Now, why do I do that? Like, which it was a really difficult, a lot more difficult to find one that would be red first, and I didn't have to go through all of them to turn it off. Why do I use the red? Because the red is not as bright, so it doesn't show over as far of a distance. And then, a good thing about that is that it also, the red light is less hard on your night vision. The white light is hard on your night vision. So I want to have my night vision still intact in case something would happen with the light, so I can see out over a far distance. And that's something I picked up in the Navy. On ship, out at sea, and for that matter, I think we did it in port too. Nah, not so much in port, but especially out at sea. Out at sea, because like berthings, yeah, they would be dark after a certain time, but the berthing level would be dark, but a lot we kept bright during the day or when we were in port. But underway, a lot of the ship would go dark, and they had it on different switches. There was like a nighttime mode, for the switches, where instead of the white lights, it would switch over power to a red light. And that was for two reasons. One, if any light got outside of the ship, it wouldn't show for miles and miles and miles and miles because it was a red light. It wasn't a white light. A white light is in the dark. It just, you can see it over a real far distance, especially out at sea where there's no hills or anything like that to obstruct it. Basically you've got the air and the curvature of the earth. So it can show for miles and miles and miles. But you would, what's the word? But yeah, that was a part of it. It didn't show over such a far distance. And another part was it would help preserve night watchstanders' night vision. And so that was, so that's where I picked that up at. And, that's not something like my dad, he won't go in the woods until he can see, just like he'll go in when it's just barely light enough that he can see. But you know how when your night vision kicks in, you see in black and white. Like when it's dark, you don't really see in color, you see in black and white. So if he can see in black and white, that's when he goes into the woods. But me, I go in shortly before that, and I've got one of my good spots is a bit of a trek back in, and so I get started before it gets light enough to see, and that's what I carry my little headlamp for. So that's something interesting, or at least I think it's interesting to me. Mercy sucks. She could have been dog. That's another thing. Dog might have been barking at one of the neighbor's dogs. And the neighbor's dog, I'm very happy with the neighbor's dog. It stays out of my yard for one, and I don't know if they let it run loose or if it's got the invisible fence system for their dog, but he generally keeps on his side of the his side of the holler, so to speak, and he's some kind of a Great Dane or a Mastiff of some sort. Real big, powerful dog, real big dog. Like, uh, yeah. And I think he's doing a job of helping keep the coyotes away. So I'm happy about that. I'd kill every single one of them suckers if I could. Like, I know people say, "Oh, you're heartless." If I could find a den, I would kill every single one of them pups, and that's how much I dislike coyotes. Like, I would kill every single one of them pups, and I wouldn't blink about it. They're and here's the thing: around here, the coyotes. It's not like you folks out west that have coyotes. The coyotes around here are, and you can look this up. They're in the East Coast, like West Virginia, Kentucky, on in. Like, they're even in the suburbs of New York to some degree. But they're calling it a coy wolf, and the coy wolf is the product of the fact that there's a lot, less open land for them to breed. And so they have begun breeding, and they breed on a very regular basis with dogs, domesticated dogs, and wolves. And they say it's becoming its own species as the coy wolf. And I have seen coyotes that were big as German shepherds and looked like German shepherds. Like, I mean, they were very obviously coyotes, but they had a lot of features of like a German shepherd dog. And so that creates, one, less fear of man, because they have this domesticated dog bred into them, so they don't have as much fear of man. So they're more willing to get close in and get into the human smells. And it makes a bigger and more dangerous animal. So yeah, that's a fun little thing. And of course, the DNR has set loose timber wolves here too, or wolves of some sort. They set not in my direct area that I know of, but in West Virginia, they set loose timber wolves. I think it was timber wolves down around Hawks Nest State Park, which is close to the New River Gorge. The New River Bridge, the big, single arch bridge that is on the West Virginia State Quarter, and Bridge Day, all of that. So the Hawks Nest State Park is close to that, and around there, I believe they set timber wolves loose, to keep the deer down, right? Rather than open up deer season longer, you set loose a predator that's going to kill people's pets. It's going to kill people's livestock, and it's going to potentially harm people. Like, you stand a lot less chance that they're going to attack a person. Although big cats don't seem like they give a crap. They'll kill anything. But the dogs, they generally speaking, leave people alone, but they go after a kid. It's unlikely that a single coyote or a single wolf or any of that, it's unlikely that they would attack a man. But they'd kill a kid. These people that live in town, that the only thing they know about wolves is freaking Balto. And they watched, the Balto cartoon when they were in kid. and they watch that, and so they think that they know about this stuff, and then they grow up hugging their trees, and they communing with nature, and they need to change this. And people are some people are stupid, and sometimes I'm one of them, and I'll fully admit that. But I'm going to tell you a lady that I knew growing up. She was in her 40s when I was still in junior high maybe. I'll give you a rough idea. She was a big time hippie, like the organic gardening and the she had bonsai plant, like she actually would make like the bonsai trees, and that's part of how I got to know her. She was married to a family friend and very distant relative. Um, but but so that's how we knew her. Um, and and so she was a big old hippie. But she was from D.C., Washington D.C., and she was 14 years old. She said, and she admitted it. She was 14 years old before she realized that meat didn't come in white styrofoam wrapped in cellophane. She was 14 years old before she made the connection and figured out that meat used to be an animal. She had no idea. I think some of y'all, and obviously folks that are watching my channel, generally speaking, you probably a little more of the woodsy preparedness situation and persuasion. And for those of y'all who, please don't misunderstand me. For those of y'all who did grow up in town and did or you do live in town, and but you're willing to learn this lifestyle and you want to learn this lifestyle, I'm not speaking bad against you. I'm speaking about the people that are just perfectly content. I'm really not even speaking bad about them. I'm just speaking my mind, I guess you could say. And speaking, I guess, what you can say, probably the truth. But the people that I'm talking about are the ones that don't care to learn. They're perfectly content to just live in their little cesspool, and they don't care where meat comes from, and they think that they know better about how to manage the woods than I do. Like, you don't. I I have woods. Like, I live in the woods. I step out on my porch and I pee on a tree. I live in the woods. There are trees all around me and fields and farms. Um, I live in farm country, and woods, and I walk through the woods to get to my chickens. Like, I know what I'm talking about, and that's who I'm talking about is those kinds of people, and I think that and this is my opinion, part of school education, and I'm not a big public school guy. Like, I'm kind of not really for public schools. I'm definitely not for federally funded public schools, but that's a different story for a different time. But I think that part of a child's education should include raising and butchering animals and raising and caring for and harvesting a garden. That should be part of your education in school. Either from a state sponsored school, or a public education, or your parents should teach you, or homeschool, that sort of situation. And really, I do think that there should be a class, and people would appreciate where their food comes from a little bit better. Because now around here, there's so many hunters and stuff around here, that people, you kind of have more of a respect. Although the nearby town, I grew up close to this area, and there I went to the big high school that had your town kids and all of that, and city kids. And there were those people that were just the weirdies, that they didn't know where food came from, or they were all vegan, and they didn't couldn't see how you could harm an animal, but that was their lifestyle, and that was how they were raised, and that's fine. But they didn't have that appreciation of where food came from. And they thought that they were all high and mighty, and that they were better. Like, your kale farm displaces a lot of animals. Like they had to go in and burn the forest for your little kale farm. And there's things to do. It's like, but people just don't understand that. And I'm not, like I said, those of y'all who don't understand that, and are trying to understand that, that's fine. Like, we're all on different levels, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, and that I don't get, and that I'm trying to learn. I struggle with. I am, of course, I've mentioned in a lot of all the live streams lately, I think, but I've been laid off, and so I'm trying, and I haven't had much success yet, but I'm trying. I make stuff, and I'm trying to sell it. So I went around to a bunch of the little crafty stores in a couple of the cities nearby, which define city, but towns, city. Um, and I had some flyers printed up, or some brochures and stuff, of products that I can make, products I have made, and I'm trying to, see if I could get them to put them in their stores, or if they'd at least let me leave. And then that's what several of them did. They let me leave some pamphlets, some flyers, um, which is cool. But I had to interact with more people today. I interacted with more people today than I have since I got laid off, like, with the exception of Veterans Day, because I went to the Veterans Day. There was a Veterans Day ceremony. They didn't do the parade this year. They did a ceremony. One of the towns nearby. Um, and I think it was because of COVID that they just did the ceremony. But I have a hard time with that. Just going up and talking to new people. I am yeah, I'm not so good at that, and definitely sales pitching and selling stuff, I'm not that good at. I'll show you actually a picture of one of the things that I make. Um, but for anyone interested, I ornaments and just decorations and things like that. Um, let's see. Which one do I want to show you guys? Yeah, we'll show this. I finished the paint on this. I finished the paint on this just today. Little bicycle. You can put it on whatever. Either a a tree or um, like I'd put it in my truck, like on the rear view mirror. A lot of guys will do that. Or people will hang stuff on that. That's probably what I'd do with it myself. But I'm making those kinds of things and trying to sell them to help compensate for the fact that I'm not making a whole lot on unemployment. Oh well, okay, which is fine because that's the purpose typically of unemployment is to help you pay your bills and to incentivize you to go get a job. Like they're not going to pay you your full wage to go get it, to sit there on your butt. Which it sucks when it's not like you got laid off. It's then and the business is not coming back. Like my business that I worked for is closed down because of COVID, and will more than likely reopen. I hope so, because I'm going to give them till the first of the year probably, and then I'm really going to hit the job search. If I haven't heard something back by the first of the year, then I'm going to really hit the job search. I don't really, I don't want to have to go to a new place, but I will. It's like that's the benefit of having a trade skill, being a welder. And for that matter, square, plumb, and straight is square, plumb, and straight, or square, plumb, and level. That's what it is. Square, plumb, level is square, plumb, and level, whether you're working with steel or wood or brick. It just is. So there's not. I mean, if you have those, if you know how to read a level, you know how to read a square, you know how to read a tape measure. There's a lot of trades that you can work in, at least at an entry level. So, that's where I am. Yeah, like I said, if you've got those kinds of skills, then you're good. Um, but all right, y'all. I've been on here yakking myself for almost an hour. But to just kind of go back at it like one last time. The benefit of having a trade, and I would encourage everybody to have a trade, like a work with your hands kind of trade. At the very least, um, at the very least, know the basics of how to read a level, how to read. Do need to find work. Because while I am a welder, fabricator, mechanic, I do all of that. Like welder, mechanic, I guess is what you would title me as. As what my job was, and hopefully still is. Um, sooner rather than later. But you know, I, I, I and so like I said, learning those basic things are important, and they open a lot of doors that aren't necessarily all good or fantastic like dream job doors, but they do open doors that you're going to be able to support a family with. And and you know what? The guy that's good at reading a tape measure has to carry less heavy stuff. Like the guy that doesn't know how to read a tape measure is going to be the gopher. Go for this and go for that, and you're going to end up carrying, carrying cinder blocks or carrying boards and carrying sheets of drywall and all of that. That's what the guy that doesn't know how to read the tape is going to have. Okay, so I just took a big jump from one person watching to four. So if you are all watching, hello. um, as I was just fixing to get off of here. um, but anyhow, uh, where was I? Yeah, the guy that if you know how to do that kind of stuff, you got to do less of the grunt work. So that's something to keep in mind. Um, and of course, everybody and their brother can figure out how to. I mean, there's so much stuff you can figure out on YouTube if you've got nobody to teach you. Um, but I would encourage. I've got a couple of videos on things that should be in every household. I did it a while back. It's like like tools. But anyhow, folks, I really am. I think gonna get off of here. We just hit the hour, and like, subscribe, do all of those things. If you made it to the end, I appreciate it. Those of y'all watch it, you'll watch it later. But if you made it through me leaving to go and check on things, homestead things, I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.